We've got you covered all season long. Welcome to the BCSN Nation podcast, powered by Buffalo Wild Wings.
All right, here it is. It's episode 3 of season 4 of the BCSN Nation podcast, powered by Buffalo Wild Wings.
Let's go, sports bar.
Back to the original. Brandon Carnes here, Justin Feldkamp, Mason Lowry. It is week 3 of the football season, week 2, as we'll head a little bit north of the border in the future. But I want to know, to start this thing off, if you've got a surprise, a shocker through the first couple weeks of the season, Mason, you can go first.
You know, I was having a heck of a time coming up with a surprise in high school football, so I'm dipping into the other kind of football, and that's the Springfield boys soccer team. They are always solid. They've gotten off to a start. Their first 6 matches, 5 wins, 1 draw. Kyle Mortis playing really well. He's got 12 goals already. And Coach Sloan always does a really good job. He'll usually have like a couple of really solid club players and then guys around them to make them the best version of themselves. He's one of the best coaches in the area, I think, for boys soccer. Doesn't get enough love. Want to throw a little bit of flowers his way.
Not football, but football.
Close
Justin,
enough.
You are up.
I'll go to the pigskin version. I'm going to say not full-blown surprise, but a pat on the back sense of Northwood and the Rangers football program.
Yes.
2 wins where they scored 44 points and 56 points in 2 wins. Yes, the 2 wins might be against some inferior competition when you look back on the season that will be after 8 more weeks, but I still think from where they were last year, 2 weeks ago, we talked about it in a previous podcast where they said they wanted to get out of the gate better than they did last year when they started 0-2. They have flipped the script, and Coach James has a solid offensive repertoire that has worked through the first 2 weeks. Can they continue it beyond?
Yeah, that was on my notes as well. I have Northwood 50 points per game. They are balling out on offense. That's why Tyler Osley won that Player of the Week award in week 1. I'm giving mine kind of a pat on the back as well. Going to Hayden Grohl over at Napoleon. Without George Eggers these first couple weeks, that young man has stepped up and played a huge role. Got to give you a little bit of confidence. Be like, all right, we can let George get fully healthy to get back for this Wildcats program when Hayden Grohl is rumbling, bumbling, and stumbling down the field.
That's a dude that doesn't get tired, which is so impressive to me. I mean,
rolls.
they just wore Maumee down in a big way last week. He was so good in the second half.
Shout out to Hayden Grohl. Shout out to everybody we just talked about. And coming up, we got so much to talk about. We'll get you through everything that happened in week 2 and get you ready for week 3/week 2, like I mentioned, up in Michigan. We've got our Done Player of the Week, our RBA Clip of the Week, so much more, and, of course, our Game of the Week. Make sure you're here every single Wednesday for a brand new episode of the podcast, 4 p.m. right on BCSN or anywhere you get your audio mediums. And make sure you follow at BCSN Sports so you don't miss anything from Wednesday to Wednesday and you don't miss anything on a Friday night especially. Speaking of some Friday nights, we'll take you back. It's overreaction time. We brought this to you last season. It's usually overreaction Monday, but darn it, we're here on a Wednesday. So midweek over or under reactions, and we'll start with Springfield. You talked about the football. We'll go to the football side of things. My take right now, Springfield is the odds-on favorite to win the Cardinal Division. Is that an overreaction, or does it sit where things should be right now?
Whoa, Miss Lippy. Pump the brakes, I'll say. I think that, yes, they're off to a great start, so I'm not here to crush a high school football team and a coaching staff. I'm not doing that, okay, Coach Arredondo? But they've beaten 2 now 0-2 teams. Challenges await. Yes, similar to Northwood, wanted to get off a better start. Springfield, 2-8 last year, wanted to get off to a better start, add some wins to give some kids and a team some confidence so they can say, hey, we can do this. They got that accomplished in week 1 by throttling Maumee. But they got Findlay in the next 7 weeks. Findlay, 8 weeks. Findlay, Perrysburg, Whitmer, BG, Napoleon, Fremont, Ross, Woodward, and Southview. I see 2 victories definitely on there if we're just stacking it up based on 2 weeks of evaluation. But I still think that 3, Fremont, Ross, Napoleon, and Southview are the teams that are a little bit above them when it comes to the Cardinal Division race. Again, nothing against what Springfield has done, but kind of who did you beat? When did you beat them type of thought. I think that they did well, but I wouldn't jump to they're the favorites.
That's my thoughts exactly. And if you want to look through 2 weeks who's the favorite, I would say probably Fremont Ross, because out of all of those teams, they have the best single win, which was Sandusky.
Yeah, in dominant fashion, too.
I will say, though, anecdotally, I talked to Tyler Swear, the Napoleon coach, last week, who obviously had to in scouting Maumee saw Springfield, and his reaction was, yeah, they are so much better than last year. They're so much more physical. They play with tremendous speed in a way that they just didn't a year ago. So the results, yeah, it's great on paper to go 2-0 against Maumee and Northview, but it's really an incomplete grade based on who they've beaten. One guy that hasn't kind of been talked about with Springfield, because it's a lot of Gabe Gregory this, Gabe Gregory that.
Sure.
Logan Goodrick, who
absolutely.
I thought probably should have been the starting quarterback last year, I think. He's a guy that can do so much for them, and he can have an impact in so many different ways. But he's come out with his hair on fire and had a really good start to his career as a starting quarterback. They may well end up winning the Cardinal division. I don't know. They're going to play Fremont Ross in Week 8, and that could end up being the league decider. But as of right now, I don't know if I can call him the favorite because I haven't really played anyone.
Yeah, I've gotten to go out to Springfield a couple times, talk to Coach Arredondo, and this team, they just have an edge that we haven't seen on a Springfield football team in a long time. 40 points in consecutive games for the first time in 6 years. So great start, and we'll see how things shake out for Coach Arredondo and the Blue Devils. And now we're moving over to Cherry Street. Should I be worried about Central Catholic? 0-2 start. We know their strength of schedule. It is as tough as maybe we've ever seen a team from the area play. But, boy, 0-3 is a big hole to come back from if you do not beat DCC this Friday.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, the 2 losses are by a combined 4 points.
Right.
1 point in week 2
but
and 3
they've had
points.
shots to win both of those.
Correct. And I still have confidence in what they can do. I believe in Coach Dempsey. If good luck. If you don't,
hard to buy that.
It's your own peril. Good luck. But I think DCC coming in, they beat Chippewa Valley 41-7 last week. This is a DCC team that beat Central Catholic last year. Central Catholic took that loss, learned from it, and then went all the way to the state championship game and came up just a little bit short there. But I think even if they are 6-4, which you'd have to go far back in the Dempsey era to find a team that finished 6-4. But hypothetically, I think if they do, I don't think they will. I think they'll have more of the wins than that. But if they would, I wouldn't want to play them come postseason time just because of the gauntlet of a schedule that they're playing and all of the gained experience. We were talking about it on tailgate last week at Napoleon, and Coach Kriegel was saying when you play tough competition like that, you find out what you're made of. And you definitely find out what you're made of in November and potentially December. So when you're getting that experience in August and early September, it's going to pay dividends. It might not add in the win column initially, but I think that they will have enough gun power throughout the rest of the season.
I wouldn't worry yet, but if they do end up starting this year 0-3, if they lose on Friday night, then you're in totally uncharted waters for the recent history of Central Catholic. And when you've got a team full of guys that are still inexperienced, guys that have only played featured roles at varsity football for 2 games, you haven't won yet, that's when you start to go a little stir crazy in that locker room, right? And that's when things can kind of get away from you. That third loss can spiral into a 4th, 5th, and so on. The good news right now is their primary goals are still ahead of them. Win a league championship, win a state championship. And if you win state, nobody's going to remember the first 2 or 3 weeks. It's not going to matter. It's 2 losses by a total of, 6 points?
4 points, yeah.
4 points. So it's, to me, not that big a deal so far. But it could become a real big deal real fast. So hopefully they can take it this week.
And one note, if I'm watching film, if I'm a coach on Central Catholic's team, is I would just say one thing in regards to the defense. We got to stop and contain and limit the big play capability of our opponents. They've had some big chunk plays given up that have played deciding crucial factors in the eventual outcome.
Got to remember, too, such an inexperienced team relatively going up against 2 extremely experienced teams in the first 2 weeks, experienced and full of talent. So it was always going to be kind of a rocky start, I think. If they were going to win either of those games, they were going to be very close.
This one, the first to set them on their CHSL goals because DCC was the projected preseason CHSL champion, and now we're going to somebody who made a championship-level play on Friday night and earned him an award. It is our Dunn Chevy Player of the Week. Cisco, you know what to do. New head coach, no problem. They got the Dunn logo on the stadium. It was an easy football to take out there, out to Clay. J.J. Medina for the Eagles. A tremendous play on Friday night. 3rd quarter, blocks a punt, return for a touchdown by his boy Antonio Giannini. I asked him when I got there, I said, do you have any other stats that I can put on this graphic? He goes, nope, just that. I go, well, that was good enough. It got him 40% of the vote, almost 1,200 votes. The Clay community, we know if somebody up there for that award, the votes are going to come in, and JJ Medina deserved it. And again, it's Medina. I'm making it up
Don't
to him
call me
because
Medina.
Exactly. Not the city. JJ Medina. Shout out to him, our Done Chevy Player of the Week. Let's drive together, and let's drive into a commercial break. Brought to you by B-Dubs. Hit it, Cisco.
Buffalo Wild Wings buy one, get one free boneless Thursdays saved me so much cash I can finally do everything I've ever wanted in life, like skydiving. You ready? No, this was a mistake, a huge mistake. I want to go back. Go! Yeah, I'll probably just use the money I saved to get more buy one, get one free boneless wings at B-Dubs. No brainer. Buffalo Wild Wings. Let's go sports bar.
At participating locations, not valid with other offers or discounts. See website or app for details.
Time to go north of the border. We got Ann Arbor Pioneer coming into town to take on Bedford. A tough 41-0 loss for Bedford last week against Sterling Heights. I talked to Coach Phillips this morning, and he said, we had such a great summer, and that's what made last week so disappointing. He said, this week we are challenging ourselves.
I wrote down yowza, 41-0. I mean, when you have so much prep, you're not coming off a week one game. You have time to scout and look at film and get your ducks in a row, and you have a big old goose egg. It's not the greatest feeling as a player or a coach, but only room for improvement. This team was 5-5 last year. Bedford was. They lost their first round playoff game to finish 5-5. 9 starters were injured last season. Yeah. Some of those guys are back, but you have to remind yourself that they didn't get any experience, or not as much experience as they would have liked if they were, say, juniors in significant roles. You're not like, okay, we got a good senior class who had a bunch of juniors last year who got a lot of experience. They didn't get experience because so many of them were injured, whether they were sophomores on varsity or juniors, and then, of course, seniors obviously would not be playing this year. But I think that was a critical element to a goose egg. And then defensively, when you're giving up 41 points, that there's a little bit of a struggle bus there, and you got to figure out how do we change up. And it's not like you just rip up your entire game plan of how you're going to approach a season and win games just after one game. But Coach Phillips has got to kind of go back into the toolbox a little bit and see if this piece can go here now, or what do we learn from 4 quarters of football in week one?
Yeah, coaches are so fond of saying, well, our sophomores aren't sophomores anymore. Theirs are, because there were so many guys that didn't get that experience last year. So many players are kind of a year behind the 8 ball. And in the framework of that offense, Justin, when you talk about moving pieces around, so often with them, it's where do you line up each running back? Because the slot back and the halfback and the fullback and everybody has kind of a different duty within what they do. So you're thinking, well, do we put the slot in the backfield? Do we move the fullback somewhere? What do we do? Their DNA is not to sling the football around necessarily. I mean, we know what a Bedford offense looks like. They usually have guys that are a little bit smaller that can hide behind the lines, and all of a sudden they're in the linebackers or the secondary before the defense has any clue where they are. That's why I'm surprised at being shut out in week one, because that is not an easy offense to prep for. I'd be lying if I said I knew a great deal about Sterling Heights-Stevenson, but any defense that can shut out that offense, no matter who's there personnel-wise, I doff my cap to them. It's going to be important, I think, the start they get off to offensively this week, because there's going to be a huge crowd. We know what Bedford home games are like. They are extremely fun to be a part of, unless you are the opposing team. That's a tough place to go and play. So if they can build up a head of steam, maybe get a touchdown on their first drive, or at least have a positive first drive, something you can hang your hat on and build from, that's going to go a long way. Because if they're down a couple of touchdowns to a Pioneer team that got a dramatic late win last week, it could be another long night. Yeah,
Cole Hees for Ann Arbor Pioneer, a trio of touchdowns last week, 67, 32, and 11-yard passes. They were down 21-7, came back, won 27-24. Coach Phillips told me 2 guys to look forward to, 2 names that you should know if you watched our preseason package when I went up there. Trent Smithson. He said, watch out for this guy to be an effector on both the offensive and defensive side of the ball at running back and linebacker. And he says expecting a much improved, in quotes, from Isaac Henman, their quarterback, this week. So we'll see how those things shake out over in week 2 north of the border. Again, Justin mentioned it. They made the playoffs last year, but they're seeking their first playoff win since 2022, trying to get back to a standard they have up there in Bedford. And now it is time for our clip of the week, brought to you by Renewal by Anderson. Cisco, hit it. And boy, did we have fun in White House on Friday. St. John's and Anthony Wayne, Porter Brungard, tough week 1, made up for it in week 2. What a catch, Cam Miller. Here's the slow-mo replay. Look at the feet. We're good on Sunday, boys.
Geez.
Both feet down. Cam Miller had himself a day 2, opens the game with a kickoff return for a touchdown, basically closes the first half here with this touchdown catch. You got to love what you're seeing in Anthony Wayne.
So many things to dissect here. With Porter Brungard, there's a reason why he's got
Being highly
colleges
touted.
looking at him. Those types of throws, pressure, stepping up in the pocket, see how
Yes.
he keeps his eyes downfield even when he's got pressure coming on him, and then to throw it in between 2 Titan defenders. So that's the quarterback side. And then Cam Miller, the concentration, you see he goes up for the ball, knows where he is. I love spatial awareness
Yes.
from athletes, whether you're talking baseball, basketball, football, soccer, whatever the case may be, hockey as well, to know where you are on the field simultaneously while concentrating on a football coming your way. And where it is, it's where only his guy can catch it, and Cam Miller does a great job of doing just that.
I just suddenly had a flashback to last year. Anthony Wayne had an almost identical play at that end for a touchdown late in a half or late in a quarter.
100%. Yeah.
And I don't remember the
End of
name
the
of the
first half
receiver
in one of
involved.
the games.
Might have been Jathan Volts maybe, but it was suddenly like, geez, I've seen this movie before. It's perfectly executed all the way around. I mean, that's 10 out of 10, no notes. Speaking of 10 out of 10, no notes, how sick are the new St. John's uniforms? I did
clean. I
did
like
not
it.
see them last year, but it's so Notre Dame coded, and I love it. They look awesome. They're playing well, and they look really good. You look good, you play good, you play good.
Feel good. There you go.
They pay good. Deion Sanders, I'm paraphrasing, but this is
something like that.
this might end up being at the BCSN honors next spring.
Yeah, great
this
play.
could be up there for play of the year.
Yeah, a 28-24 victory for Coach Brungard over former assistant Joe Horn. A great moment. Porter Brungard stepping up, watching your son make that play. Can't imagine how that feels. Head over to our TikTok at BCSN Sports if you want more of our Renewal by Anderson clip of the week. We are so close to 10,000 followers. Help us get there. And you know what? Looking good, feeling good, playing good. Student section of the week is looking good, and Mason already brought it up. St. John's is our winner of student section of the week. Look at the photo. They had a USA out, looking good, had the team feeling good, playing good, and this week they got a tough matchup taking on Orchard Lake St. Mary's. Bring everybody, anybody, all your friends out to Leiden Stadium on Friday. St. John's, our student section of the week, brought to you by Unison Health and the Mental Health Service Board of Lucas County. Unison Health reminds you it is your time, your choice, and now it is our choice to head towards Perkins and St. Francis. Another fun Erie v. BCSN clash on Friday night. Pirates and Knights. I also talked to Coach 𝗦𝗀𝗀 this morning. I'm getting all the contacts coming in this morning. He said Perkins with Coach Santoro, they are where we strive to be, and they're a great measuring stick. It is time to stop talking about what we want to do and be about it. Period.
That's a statement from a coach. I like it. Rally the troops type of message there.
Sure.
I'm intrigued by this matchup. For those that might not know, Perkins lost the state championship game last year by 1 point to Indian Valley, 37-36. Yes, they lost a couple key players, or more than that, but namely Braylon Collier, who's now playing for the Michigan State Spartans, and then Isaac Bunce. I mean, I said those two names a million times on the highlight shows last year, but those two guys are gone. But Jalen Santoro is back, his 5th year there. They still have Sam Schweinfurth, their quarterback, back. He threw for 3,000 yards, 40 touchdowns, and just 6 picks last year. But I tell you what, in week 1, they rebounded in week 2, but in week 1, they lost. Perkins lost to Clear Fork. And if you want to talk about a wake-up call, how about this? They lost 17-14 on a walk-off field goal to Clear Fork. This is a Clear Fork team last year that went 4-7, and Perkins beat Clear Fork last year 55-0. Okay, so you're totally going in the opposite direction.
Kicking the teeth.
If that does not wake you up, I don't know what does out of the gates in week 1. But I think that Perkins has the capability and the talent and the coaching staff to right the ship quickly.
The Pirates, get it. I got it.
I didn't even
We're off
play
the rails.
that. But they're going to have to go to UT, play at the Glass Bowl against St. Francis. I know that Perkins is excited about that opportunity because it's not every day that a high school team gets to play in a college level atmosphere, especially at a Mid-American Conference level. St. Francis gets to do it 5-ish times a year. But a few notes on St. Francis. I saw them against Waite. I like what I see out of Eli Beal. Who doesn't? He is electric. He's a game breaker.
He's the real deal, they say.
Jermaine Polk, a Rutgers commit on the defensive line. He also plays offensive line, skilled at both. Huge, massive body on the front there for them. And then a freshman quarterback with quarterback KJ Collins Walker. He has taken a majority of the snaps for the Knights, if not all of them, through the first couple games, and they're coming off a loss on the road in Fort Wayne to Bishop Dwenger. But I think this is a tough test, Mason, for both teams because this is two higher-level programs who have high aspirations for playoff success, building a program, both solid head coaches. Interesting matchup here.
Well, you talk about Perkins and the loss to Clear Fork being a wake-up call. Maybe last week for St. Francis was that wake-up call, too.
Yes.
They turned the ball over 6 times in Fort Wayne. That's 4 interceptions and
4 fumbles, 2 pick sixes.
Correct. That's and when you add that to the fact that Perkins picked off 5 passes, albeit against Scott last week, that kind of makes you go, ugh.
Yeah.
I don't know. That could be the wake-up call for all those guys. You know, you've thrown a freshman quarterback into the fire. That's not an easy place to go anytime you're going over the line to Indiana. It's an enemy that you don't know.
Yeah.
So hopefully they were able to learn a lot from that. I'm going to give you a matchup in particular that I think is going to be interesting, and you mentioned Jermaine Polk, Justin, going to Rutgers. Perkins has a lineman named Eli Sanchez who's going to UNLV.
Yeah.
And just a quote from him, indeed, a quote from him in the Sandusky Register. I think about that loss in the title game every day, every stinking day. Maybe they went into the game with Clear Fork too amped up to try and get vengeance from the narrow loss by 1 in the state title game last year. But I think that probably did right the ship for them. You start to think, all right, let's get back to just going out there and trying to win every week instead of trying to win the state championship game in week 1. And it's going to be a heck of a test for St. Francis. We'll see if Perkins can be equal to the environment and the big stadium and all of that, and we'll see if a freshman quarterback can take a step forward, too, for the Knights.
Easy way to close this out. Coach Linke said, the tougher team will win Friday. That's it.
He ain't
We'll close
wrong.
that one out. We'll get you into our Game of the Week, brought to you by Dunn Chevy in Oregon. Do it, Cisco. Last week was a game day tailgate debut. We got another one this week. Clay at Bowling Green, making Justin and the boys' first ever trip out to Clay. We're going to Wood County. Clay at BG. Both of these teams looking to offensively at least get things right. Both of them have only scored 14 points on offense coming into this. Clay had that touchdown on the J.J. Medina block punt, but through 2 weeks, only 14 points on offense for Clay.
Yeah, they got a little bit of growing pains, and I've been talking about this with a lot of people kind of in our high school football network, and a lot of young teams this year, Mason.
100%.
I think you would agree.
Especially quarterbacks.
Quarterbacks, yeah. We did a segment on our first week's game day tailgate where tons of multiple year starting quarterbacks are no longer there. So a lot of growing pains, I think, are occurring here in the first 2 weeks of the season. And this, I think, will continue with Clay and BG, both young teams on both sides of the ball. So I think for Coach Derek Pennington in his first year, that's another element that is new for this Clay program. 7 points, 14 points in the first 2 weeks. Only 3 starters are off on offense are back. So that kind of makes a little bit of sense. And for the next few weeks, Clay has BG, Napoleon, Bowser, Finley, and Anthony Wayne. So they're going to find out a lot about themselves through the next stretch here of a month plus worth of games. Landon Eccleberry, I just haven't seen him get in a rhythm because they haven't sustained drives. I mean, when you're only scoring 21 total points over the course of this first 2 weeks.
7 of them were special teams.
It's just kind of given. Yeah, exactly. And then I will say two names, offensive lineman Zach Rom and then linebacker Colin Greenewalt. I think those are two guys that Coach Pennington is going to have to rely upon to find a way to provide a spark on the offensive and or defensive side, open up some lanes, make a tackle in space, that type of deal that could maybe force a fumble and get a game break. And then for BG, it's honestly been disappointing through the first 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Lost to Perrysburg. That was somewhat expected, but the final score, I don't think 64-0 is like, whoa, how did that happen? And then losing to Bryan. 3 starters back on each side of the ball there. So, again, the growing pains for Coach 𝗏𝗏. They lost a bunch of reliable running backs from last season. But I think that they got to give Grant Gillespie, their quarterback, who's a sophomore, a little bit more time to make some plays.
Yeah, the Bryan loss for BG last week was really disappointing because they were up 14-3 in that game in the second quarter and then gave up 29 straight points. And, boy, Coach Kiss did not sound real pleased afterwards. He said something to the effect of, I've got a few seniors that are playing their tails off. Who else? Who else is going to step up and make plays? It's false starts. It's drop passes. Some of that is youth. Some of that maybe just indiscipline or malaise at this stage of the season that you gotta turn around real quick. Grant Gillespie, kind of like Landon Eckelberry, a guy that took over the starting quarterback job kind of in midstream last year. So he has starting quarterback experience too, but it's obviously a different kind of system. Landon at Findlay last year was slinging the ball around in BG. That's not really their identity, although I don't know right now if they know really what their identity is. They're still trying to figure that out. And Clay probably is too. I mean, you think of all the just feats of daring do we saw from Mason Heinschel last year, and yes, he was a generationally good quarterback, but Troy Hazuda and Hudson Byers helped him out in a big way. They were absolutely on the same wavelength.
Landon Eversman,
Yeah, at all times, they were on the same page. When you look at their offensive stats from the first 2 weeks, there's really no big plays. And that was what, I think back to the Findlay-Clay game last year where Landon Eckelberry threw 500-some yards. It was big play, big play, big play, big play. This year, no gains on the ground of over 19 yards and no, I think one big reception by Max Morrison in week 1. So they're having to kind of inch their way down the field, and it hasn't worked. I would guess that Morrison will probably be that big play guy long term when I think of what his older brothers did at Rossford. But they may figure that out this week. If they can get a big play or two, that's going to get the snowball rolling, I think.
You heard our takes. We want to know who you think is going to win. Head over to our Game of the Week poll over on X. Closes on Thursday. If you're not listening live, it might be closed already. And why the heck aren't you listening live? Anyway, we'll be right back after 30 seconds for Buffalo Wild Wings. Get you out of this show. Cisco, hit it.
I've saved so much money enjoying Buffalo Wild Wings BOGO half-off traditional wing Tuesdays. I can finally afford everything I've ever wanted in life. Wings. All I ever wanted was more wings. So yeah, buy one, get one half off traditional wings is the perfect deal for me and my lifetime yearnings. I value it more than literally anything. Buffalo Wild Wings. Let's go sports bar.
At participating locations, not valid with other offers or discounts. See website or app for details.
Trust the Midas Games list. Hit it. We got a busy Friday. Game Day Nation and Game Day Tailgate. You know it every single week. We got our Game of the Week, Clay and BG. Big CHSL matchup, DCC at Central Catholic. Perkins, St. Francis, we told you about. Good one, Northview and Start over on Tremainsville, Pioneer and Bedford north of the border. And then some Erie action, Genoa at Huron and Lorraine at Sandusky, gentlemen.
Yeah, looking forward to all that. Northview at Start. Start got a big win last week, so hats off to Coach James and the Spartans. Yes, we already talked about Bedford needing a rebound there. Genoa at Huron. Interesting matchup, Toledo area versus Sandusky area there. And then Sandusky, we already talked about losing to Fremont Ross in the rivalry game last week, trying to pick themselves up off the mat against Lorraine.
Those last two games, the two Erie ones, look for lots and lots and lots of points to be scored in those two. I have a feeling.
Great. Maybe keep me real busy on Friday night, but we're going to keep you real busy on Thursday night. Cisco, we got another graphic to throw up here. Huge, first of its kind, high school volleyball dual broadcast, two of the top teams in the area and the state, St. Ursula, Anthony Wayne, tomorrow, Thursday, September 4th at 6 p.m. on BCSN, if you want to listen to Brad and Gretchen Brown. And then on the NLL Network, we've got Maddie Klein, Jordan Schwiebert with their court-level broadcast brought to you by Toledo Volleyball Club. Great matchup, an exciting new thing for us to do here on BCSN, Justin.
Yeah, all four of those people are going to do great jobs for us, and we're trying to always do something new and innovative. So thank you to Toledo Volleyball Club for presenting that. And then in conjunction with our volleyball coverage. We got Above the Net each and every week on Sports Nightly, presented by Premier Academy Volleyball. So lots to look forward to beyond what we do here at the high school football level. We still got coverage of soccer, sidekicks on Wednesday on Sports Nightly, and Above the Net each and every week.
Mason, got some farewell notes?
Can't wait for Friday. 2 young teams. We'll see who can grow up the fastest in our game of the week.
How about that? There's your snippet to send you off, and we'll send you off into next Wednesday, 4 p.m., right back here for a brand new episode of the BCSN Nation podcast. Follow at Justin Pelcat, follow at 𝗦𝗫𝗶𝗵𝘁𝗹𝘆, follow at BCSN Sports. See you next Wednesday.